2026 is packed with epic astro events. Let's have a look at the ones worth photographing. Let's start with one of the biggest highlights of 2026, solar eclipses. And this year we get two very different and very photogenic ones. On February 17th, the moon will slide perfectly in front of the sun, but it won't cover it completely. Instead, we'll see a ring of fire, a glowing circle of sunlight surrounding the moon. This is an annular eclipse, and it is one of the most visually striking solar events you can photograph. And as you see in the PhotoPills map, the eclipse will be visible in part of the South America, in South Africa, in Madagascar, but in those areas the eclipse will be partial. If you want to see the ring of fire, you need to go to the annularity path, which is this black band you see here on the map, so you need to go to the South Pole basically. And as you see, as you change the time, on the top panel you see how the eclipse evolves. You see the ring of fire here on the top panel, on the picture you see, and the top panel gives you the time, the exact local time for the red-pin position each phase of the eclipse occurs. And on the map you have where the eclipse occurs at all times, so you cannot miss it. You have everything you need to plan this annular solar eclipse. But hey, and this is very important, when photographing the annular solar eclipse you need to always use or put always a solar filter in front of your lens, so you protect the sensor of your camera. Now this is the big one. On August 12th, we'll experience a total solar eclipse. The moon will completely block the sun, turning day into night for a few unforgettable minutes. During totality, the sun's corona becomes visible. The sky darkens dramatically. Planets and stars may appear, and the light on the landscape changes in a way you'll never forget. This is truly one of the rarest and most powerful photographic experiences you can ever have. But here's the key. You'll need to be inside the path of totality, otherwise you miss the magic. So where is the total solar eclipse visible? You have here on the PhotoPills map, you have the path of totality, which goes from Iceland, Greenland, Iceland, the north of Spain, crosses Spain, and dies here in the Balearic Islands, Menorca, which is pretty cool. So you wish to photograph the totality phase, guys, you need to be inside this black band here on the map. Outside this area and between these yellow lines you see on the map, you'll be able to experience the partial phase of the eclipse. Again, on top panel you have how the eclipse evolves as you change the time. You see when it's totality here, and also the panel gives you the times each phase of the eclipse occurs for your shooting spot, your red pin position. In this case I have it in Menorca, so the times you see on the top panel are for Menorca. And when shooting totality, one important thing, super important, remove the solar filter you have in front of the lens, because during totality you don't need the solar filter. And if you shoot with your solar filter on, you'll get just black photos, no eclipse whatsoever. We put several expeditions to photograph this total solar eclipse, one in Iceland, one in the north of Spain, and one in our beautiful island, Menorca, here in Spain too. If you're interested, send us an email via travel@photopills.com. and we'll send you the details. To learn how to plan your total solar eclipse shot step by step, watch this video. Now let's talk about one of the most unpredictable and exciting sky events of 2026, a comet. Comet C 2025 R3 Pan-STARRS could be the brightest comet of the year, or it could stay faint. That's the thing with comets, nothing is guaranteed. Base case scenario, it could brighten around magnitude 3, making it visible to the naked eye. The worst case scenario, it stays around magnitude 7 or 8, too faint to see without binoculars or with a small telescope, but still very photogenic. So why is this one worth watching and photographing? Because in late April this comet will pass between the Sun and Earth, and this can trigger a phenomenon called forward scattering. In simple terms, the comet's tail can suddenly glow much brighter, as it reflects sunlight directly to us. If that happens, the comet could steal the show. The key dates are: perihelion is on April 19th. The closest approach to Earth will occur on April 26 and 27. And the best viewing window is from late April to early May. Where do you need to look? In the northern hemisphere, look towards the pre-dawn sky in late April, near the sunrise direction, which is the thick yellow line you see here on the PhotoPills map. In the southern hemisphere, look towards the evening sky in early May, near the sunset direction, the thick orange line you see here on the map. you can miss it. This is one of the events where planning early and staying flexible pays off. If the comet brightens, you'll want to be ready. In 2026 we get 2 lunar eclipses, and one is especially spectacular. On March 3rd there will be a total lunar eclipse. The moon will pass completely into Earth's shadow. And during totality the moon doesn't disappear. It turns deep red, copper and orange. That's why it's often called the blood moon. Where and when the eclipse will be visible? Well, let's go to PhotoPills map, and here we have the visibility of the eclipse on the map. As you see, in the Americas you have the eclipse visible at moonset. Then in New Zealand the eclipse is visible, and in Australia, China, Japan the eclipse is visible at moonrise, and the eclipse is not visible unfortunately in Europe, not in Menorca, not in Africa, not in Madagascar either. And again, on the top panel, if I change the time, you see how the eclipse evolves with the picture of the eclipse, and on the panel, you have the local times for each phase of the eclipse for your shooting spot, the red pin position. And on August 27 or 28, depending on where you are on Earth, the lunar eclipse will be partial. Only part of the moon will slide inside Earth's shadow, and part of the moon will disappear. It is less dramatic than a total lunar eclipse, but still very photogenic. And the partial eclipse will be visible in Europe in this case, in Menorca, visible in Africa, visible in the Americas, North America, Canada, South America, and it will not be visible in Australia and China and Japan, unfortunately. Again, on the top panel you have how the eclipse evolves throughout time, when it is time, and also the local times for each phase of the eclipse. Now, if you want to learn how to plan your lunar eclipse shots, watch this video. As you probably know, the Milky Way and the galactic center are visible from February till October, from both hemispheres. But from November till January, only the thin part of the Milky Way is visible, which is also amazing to photograph. Give it a try and I promise you'll get amazed by the photos you'll get. But where the galactic center will be visible? Well, if you look at the northern hemisphere, in March you have the galactic center visible in the southeast directions, and is when you can photograph the Milky Way in the northern hemisphere when it's low in the sky. Great for panorama. Then if we go to June, you can start getting the galactic center more in the south direction, and also you can get beautiful diagonals of the core of the Milky Way with our galaxy. And towards the end of the galactic center Milky Way season, let's say September, is when you can get vertical compositions of the Milky Way with the galactic center in the southwest directions. So in the northern hemisphere, at the beginning of the season, you can get low panoramas of the Milky Way. In the middle of the season, you can get beautiful diagonals of the Milky Way, and at the end of the season, towards August, September, October, you can get these beautiful compositions with the Milky Way completely vertical and the galactic center near the horizon. If we go now to the southern hemisphere, to Namibia for example, you realize how powerful is the Milky Way in the southern hemisphere, because you can get almost all year round vertical compositions, low panoramas and diagonals. And in March you can get the core again in the southeast directions with a beautiful diagonal and almost completely vertical Milky Ways. Vertical Milky Way almost, and then it goes down for a beautiful diagonal. If you go to June again, you see the difference between the northern hemisphere, you can get a really nice arch of the Milky Way, completely vertical of course, and then in the west you can get a super low arch. So you can get low arch, diagonal and completely vertical Milky Way. If you don't understand what I'm showing you on the map, you have the Milky Way picture on the top panel where you see how the Milky Way goes more horizontal or more vertical. And if we go to the end of the season of the Milky Way galactic center visibility season, it's when you can get completely vertical Milky Ways too, and very low panoramas of the Milky Way. And always remember that you can always use the night AR button here to visualize how the Milky Way will look here at the red pin position, which is pretty cool. And by the way, if you used to learn how to plan your Milky Way shots step by step, watch this video. The Perseids and the Geminis will be the most powerful meteor showers in 2026. The Perseids is peaking on the night that goes from August 12 to August 13, and over 80 meters per hour are expected at the peak. So on August 12th, we'll be able to photograph a total solar eclipse and the Perseids meteor shower, which is pretty cool. Also, the good news is that the peak of the meteor shower occurs during new moon, so we don't have to worry about the moon. And the Perseids are visible from both hemispheres. The gray line you see now moving on the map as I change the time points you where the radiant of the meteor shower is. And you know that the radiant of a meteor shower is at the spot in the sky where meteors appear to originate. And knowing where the radiant is at all time is very important, because some people like to frame where the radiant is, and other people prefer to frame away from the radiant, hoping to catch longer meteors. So you have the radiant of the meteor shower perfectly located on the map, but you can always tap the night AR button here and visualize where the radiant of the Perseids is. Here it is. And you can change the time here. Yeah, you can change the time. And you will know where the radiant is at all time, which is amazing. Okay, the Geminids is peaking on the night that goes from December 13th to December 14th. And around 70 meters per hour are expected at the peak. But of course, you can check your local peak date and time and meteors intensity with PhotoPills. During the Geminids peak, the moon phase will be 22%, so the moon will set, leaving a darker sky for most of the night. And the Geminids are visible from both hemispheres too. Once again, tap on the night AR to locate the radiant of the meteor shower, in this case the Geminids. You cannot miss it. Now, if you wish to learn how to plan your meteor shower shot step by step, watch this video. In 2026, we get two great supermoons. The first one on November 24th and the second one on December 24th. The full moon will be closest to Earth, appearing a little bit larger than usual, about 7% larger than the average full moon. So based on your supermoon rise direction or supermoon set direction, plan your supermoon shot like I've done in this plan here. Because if on November 24th, 2026, which is the date of the supermoon, I am at the red pin position at 4:56 p.m., I'll be able to see and photograph the supermoon rising next to the Empire State Building and slowly aligning with the top of the building here. And as you see, the supermoon will be pretty large. This blue band represents the size of the moon. And you have the size in brackets also on the top panel, on panel number 2. In brackets, you see that the size is 40 meters, which is an amazing size. Also, the moon height will be 383 meters, which is more or less the height of the Empire State Building. And one thing that's very cool is that if you go to panel number 3, you have the elevation of the sun minus 4.96, which means that this shot occurs during blue hour. You know that the blue hour occurs from elevations of the sun from -4 to -6. And golden hour occurs from the elevations of the sun between 6 and -4. Now, if you wish to learn how to plan your moonshots, watch this video. 2026 will be another great year for the Aurora, because we're still close to the solar maximum, which means increased solar activity and a higher chance of strong dynamic auroras. So, if you're lucky enough to live in the Canadian Rockies, in Canada, or in Greenland, or Iceland, or North Europe, Norway, Sweden. From January to April and from September to December, it's a great time to photograph auroras. Actually, we put quite a few expeditions to photograph and chase the aurora in Canada, in Iceland, in Lofoten Islands. If you're interested, send us an email via travel@photopills.com. By the way, and yes, you can photograph the Aurora Borealis and Australis with the Milky Way. When should you photograph the aurora? Well, you can photograph them when it's dark enough, there is aurora activity, and there are no clouds, and in any moon phase actually. A lot of people like to photograph the aurora when there is no moon, but you can also photograph aurora when there is moon, because the moon will help you light the foreground for you, and in one single exposure you can photograph the aurora and the landscapes, which is pretty cool. Well, these are some of the best astro events you can photograph in 2026. If you know of any other cool event to photograph, please let me know in the comments. And now, if you wish to learn how to plan and photograph each one of the events I've shared in this video, I invite you to download and study well our super detailed photography guides. I'm gonna leave a link to the guides in the description of this video and in the first comment below. Download them because it's free. And as always, if you like this video, give me a like, subscribe, and I'll see you next Wednesday in another video. And remember that you have the power to imagine, plan, and shoot legendary photos. Bye.